Alright. Hi and welcome back. If you're watching this, then you want to know my thoughts on the Subculture palette. I hope. Anyways, I have been using this palette for what I call a 2 weeks one palette. I have used nothing but this palette. Occasionally I'll bring in some extra shadows if I'm finding that a look I want to do needs a little bit of help with like a blending color, etc, etc. I have been using this every single day that I have worn makeup for the past 2 weeks, and I have to say that I really like it. Like, really like it. I wouldn't not have picked this up if my friend Niecy had not sent this to me, and for that I am so grateful, Niecy. I really enjoyed this. Some of the things that people have mentioned that were like negatives about this palette is that there's a ton of fallout. I have experienced like 0 to very minimal fallout with this. I also don't pack my brush super full, and I am able to blend up the colors to the like intensity that I want them. I put it on a little bit at a time and then work it, and then put a little bit more on and then work it where I want it. So I've had 0 fallout. People have complained about fading, which yes, I have experienced fading. I usually do my makeup around 6 o'clock in the morning, and by the time I get home from work, it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and my eyeshadow has faded. Not to the point where it's non-existent, but it's definitely not as vibrant as whenever I started out the day. And while I have other shadows that don't fade, it's not as big of a deal breaker for me as maybe I had thought it would be. So I'll just put a little bit more on and it brings it back to life. Like if I'm going to be doing something, I can see where people would be mad about that because they shouldn't fade like this. And the fading is pretty, I don't know what the word for that would be, like intense. It's very noticeable, which is kind of strange. Also, some of the colors oxidize just a little bit, but I don't think of the oxidization as like how your foundation would oxidize. I think of it as I'm putting one color on top of my skin. It's not like a white base, and so of course it's going to change the color just a little bit, just like how lipsticks look different on different people. I feel like that's what happens with the eyeshadows. New Wave, this really cool orange shade, I am wearing it today. It does oxidize, but I like the color that it turns into, and I don't have an issue. Like, I'm not mad at it. It doesn't really bother me. People were also not liking Cube Electric or Adorn, and I think that these shadows are amazing. They remind me of the Makeup Forever shadows in the sense that they have like that dimethicone feel, and you have to be careful of what kind of brush you use with them and how you apply them. So I use a synthetic brush. This Urban Decay like flat one is one of my favorites. Also the ColourPop flat brush that they have that's really similar. I just kind of dig some product up on my brush and then pat it, like push it in and then drag it where I want. I can use them wet or dry, not a big deal. Like, I really think that those 3 are great shadows. And Cube, I actually think that it is almost identical to this Makeup Forever one in D868. Very similar looks. I love it. For an inner corner highlight for me, it's been amazing. And Electric is one of the coolest shades I have ever used. This shade alone makes this palette like so worth it. It's really a neat shade, and I love it. I do have Adorn on my eyes today. I put it on wet, and I think it's just really pretty. My look today is Adorn, New Wave, and then Fudge in my crease and on my lower lash line. And I don't have a problem with Fudge. I don't know why people were hating on that one so bad. I have no idea. No clue. I will say though that I use my Wayne Goss brushes. I have not even attempted to use synthetic brushes for my crease work or the blending out. I don't have very many synthetic brushes that I use like on a daily basis, except for like these Urban Decay ones that I use for packing on like foiled metallic shadows. I do like these because I can get them wet with Fix Plus and I don't worry about ruining them. Whereas my Goss brushes, I kind of baby a little bit more. But these are amazing for blending out the shadows. My favorite brush that I have been using with this palette is the new number 18 by Wayne Goss. I think this is goat hair, if I'm not mistaken, but it's a little bit more dense and in a little bit of a firmer brush. But this picks up like the most perfect amount of powder and lays it on my skin and then blends it out beautifully. Maybe that's why I'm having such good luck with this palette, is my brushes. I don't know. I've been tempted to use some of my synthetic brushes to do a look with this, but I don't want to mess it up and then have to take off all of my makeup. That said, I can do my foundation and then put on this eyeshadow palette and have like no cleanup. I don't know. I'm gonna call it just the luck of the draw on that one. So let me go over some of my favorite shades. Cube for sure. Roxy, I absolutely loved putting into my crease. Dawn was a decent like blending out shade if I needed it to. Electric on my inner corner was so pretty. Destiny, this was kind of a weird shade. It looks green, but once I put it on my eyes, it was kind of gray. It was neat looking though. Definitely a different shadow that I've never used. Like I've never had anything similar to that. I actually really liked it. Fudge, it's a, you know, a basic deep brown. Adorn is on my eyelids. This one is really pretty and it works really well with a New Wave. That one's pretty. All Star, I actually wound up mixing in with the Modern Renaissance palette and I really like this color. It just gave like a really cool like fall-ish look. Probably one of my favorites in the palette. Untamed is another green that looks almost gray on my eyes. And I don't know why that is. It's just a deep green. I had a little bit of an issue with this one. I started out thinking I was going to have just a really super simple little bit of that green on my outer V area. And it turned into this full out blown smoky look. I wound up rocking it, but it made me a little bit self-conscious because I had to go to work. I work at a school. So that wasn't my favorite, but I mean, it worked and it was really pretty. Mercury is this really cool toned brown. I think this is pretty. Edge, I honestly didn't use this except for maybe one time, but I mixed it with New Wave and I really like the look. I thought this was really pretty as an all over the eyes, just blended out. It was nice. And then Axis, I really like with Edge. I would put Edge all over my lid, and then Axis is a lower lash line. Axis, I did find this one fades significantly, but as soon as I put it on, I loved how it looked. The blues just, it was really blue and it was really pretty. Rowdy, I didn't use a whole lot. I think I maybe used this once and that worked really well to deepen up the crease in with All Star. I like this palette. I wouldn't go so far as to say I absolutely love it, only because of the fading issue. Other than that, I haven't had any issues with this. I do have a lot of looks posted on my Instagram, which is always linked below. And then at the end of this video, I will like do a slideshow of all of the looks that I did using this palette. I would definitely say that this is not a palette for beginners. I think that Anastasia Beverly Hills is right in that aspect, that it's not really a palette for beginners, and if you're not confident in your makeup or like eyeshadow skills, you might wind up not liking this. And that's okay, because not every single palette is for everybody. Just like for me, I hate Too Faced eyeshadows. I won't buy them. I tried to pan the chocolate bar and it was this huge fiasco, and I won't have anything to do with Too Faced shadows anymore. But it's also for my makeup application. I don't like having to build and build and build to get pigment. I like a lot of pigment, and I don't mind having to work with my eyeshadow just a little bit. And this palette, I think they did a really good job on. If there was some way to fix the fading issue, I think that would be awesome. Today I have it on top of just eye primer. I use the MAC eye primer. I've used it where it's on top of MAC's Painterly. It still fades, and I've even done it where I put on the Painterly or the eye primer and then put on a powder base, which lately I've been using Wet n Wild's Brulee. And no matter what I do, it does fade a little bit, but I'm not wearing my makeup for, you know, 16 hours a day, so it's not that big of an issue for me. I don't know. No biggie. Those are my thoughts. I'm not going to get like super in depth into everything about this palette, but I don't know. If you have it, do you like this palette? Do you hate it? Are you like, oh, Anastasia is the worst now? I personally like this palette, and I didn't think that I would. I also learned that I'm not going to be feeding into the hype or the mob mentality of palettes, because in the beginning I was like, that thing is ugly. If it's hitting pan that crazy fast, then why? I'm gonna think for myself from now on. I like it. It gets a thumbs up from me. That said, I bought the Prism palette because I really like Anastasia shadows. I've only swatched this. I want to use it. So I'm going to use it for my new next 2 weeks one palette. It is kind of similar to the Subculture, but not really. Once I swatched all of these shadows, it's pretty different. So Subculture Prism. It is similar in the fact that there are 2 orange shades. There is 2 gold metallics, but this green throne, oh my goodness, I think it would look beautiful mixed with Axis up here up at the top. I'm excited to play with this yellow. It's not as ugly as I thought it was going to be. And then this shade Lure, oh, it's like this mauvey pink, and oh, it's gonna be so good on the eyes. And this Dimension is really pretty. Lucid reminds me of MAC's Vanilla Pigment or Kat Von D's Thunderstruck shadow, so I ain't mad about that because I really like those colors, and I have it in a pressed powder form. It's gonna be cool. I'm always down for orange shadows. Parallel is kind of similar to Fudge, and I know on camera they might look identical, but they are different. I don't even care if they're kind of the same because I love these eyeshadows a lot. That thing is black. I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to go. Osiris is this purple. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's going to be so good. Smoked all over the lid. I'm really stoked to get into this palette. This Saturn is like a reddish orange, almost like a brick color. Just talk about it. And I kind of love that there's not a whole lot of structure to this palette. It's a holiday palette. Palettes like this, or they're like holiday palettes, I just want it for the colors. It doesn't have to make sense, and I don't mind bringing in extra shadows. I'm hoping that this works out really well though. Hoping. I think it will. I have faith in it. I should say that. So that said, the Anastasia Prism palette is going to be my next 2 weeks one palette. So stay tuned in a couple of weeks for my looks and thoughts on this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Can we talk about this packaging? I'm not a sucker for packaging. I buy stuff for the contents. It's glittery. Can you even see that? It's glittery. Huh? I'm gonna swatch this really quick. Look, see I have blue on my fingers. But my palette doesn't even look that bad. And for 2 weeks worth of use, That's 2 weeks worth of use, and not once did I hit pan. You tap. I think some people be playing. I'm doing it for the views. Not saying no names. Also, microfiber cloths are like the best things in the world. I'm obsessed with them. But other than that, this has been my go-to every single day that I have worn makeup. Excuse me, I have something itchy, like right here. I don't want to disturb my foundation. Hang on. Oh, part of my order is shipped from Nike.com. That's nice. I hope it's the shoes. Pants. Shit. Okay.
Marshmallow. It's highlight. It's not a whole lot to see. All right. Let's see what else. Gumdrop. Oh. Is it bad that I want a backup of this palette, even though I know that highlight takes 50,000 years to go through? I have so much highlighters that I literally probably should never buy a highlighter again. But oh my goodness, when what shade is this from my Urban Decay? When I run out of OC in this Urban Decay blush palette, I have Gumdrop. Because I have OC on my cheeks right now. Oh my goodness, I like this one even better. It's all right, next one is Butterscotch, right here. It's like champagne-y gold highlight. Starburst. What is that color? Just got like a sheen. It's like a cool pink. I don't know. It's so pretty though. Okay. There. If you stayed till the end, you got to see extra swatches of the sugar kit. Because why not?